Welcome to Seasoned Conversations, where experience meets insight and life's journey reveals its deepest wisdom. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell, and here we share authentic stories of reinvention, purpose, and fulfillment from the seasoned paths we walk. Together, we'll explore how to age boldly, live intentionally, and embrace our second act with clarity and confidence. So pull up a chair. There's always room at the table for Seasoned Conversations.
Welcome to Seasoned Conversations. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell. Thank you for joining us for another episode this week. Hey, I'm having so much fun. I'm excited about all of the conversations I'm having. I'm sure that you guys have seen on some weeks I'm doing what I'm calling season sessions. Season sessions are a little different than the conversations. In the sessions, it's just me, right? And I think last week y'all saw me talk about the weight you're carrying and what are you carrying that wasn't yours. And we're going to continue that session with a couple of other follow-ups that's going to help you really release yourself from the things that you've been carrying all your life that's not yours. That person telling you that you'll never amount to anything. That person who says something negative to you that wasn't part of who you are. You heard my story that I told you about, my experience with Reverend Run and what he said to me about my book before my book was written and how that motivated me. We know the story of Michael Jordan. We know the story of Malcolm X. So many people have been told something when they were young that carried with them all through their lives. And I want to make sure that I help you figure out what those things are in your life so that you can get over them. But in the mix of all that stuff, in my day-to-day activities, because everybody is so locked into seasoned conversations, everybody is like, I got this story I want to tell you about this. I got this story I want to tell you about that. And in the midst of me listening to those stories, what I'm hearing is content and things that I should be sharing with others. And then there are people who are around me, like my guest today, Dr. Matisa Wilburn. Yeah. And so there are so many different conversations her and I can have and how many conversations we're going to have. So she's going to be a frequent guest because there are just so many conversations. There's some times where you're going to come to Seasoned Conversations and it's going to be Dr. Matisa and Tracy, because they also have stories to tell within each other that they can tell. Then I want to make sure that people hear this not only from my perspective through our relationship, but our mutual relationships that we have, not only as friends and families, but we share a loved one that's not with us anymore. Lawrence, my brother Lawrence. And we're going to try to get through this entire 45 minutes without crying. I know it's going to happen at some point with me. When I go deep into an emotion, I know that happens. Mm-hmm. But I know that for Matisa, doctor, y'all say DR, period, because the tuition money demands that you call her doctor in front of her name. But I know that I've watched both of them throughout the years that we've known each other, go through life and have lessons, teach you things that don't teach very many people. I remember one time, Matisa, me and Lawrence was having a conversation and I said, I think his brother had passed or your brother had passed or someone had passed. And I said to him, I was like, you guys have a lot of grief going on. And I said, and I don't experience that. Like, that's not part of what God has put on me to really kind of deal with grief. Trust me, I don't want it either. Right. But there's some people who get it, and it comes in droves. And I was like, the two of you, I don't think you really recognize and understand the resiliency that God is building for you. And I don't know what it's for, but you're being burdened with some things that is ultimately going to save and help a lot of people through your own personal ministry. When you think about that, because that's the conversation we're going to have today, we're going to really just kind of talk about transition after loss. And it's not just the really recent and personal loss of brother Lawrence, but loss in general, because I think in the season space, it's the inevitable.
Absolutely.
You're going to lose people. And some people are going to be distant from you, and some people are going to be right up on top of you. And those losses are going to leave huge gaps in your psyche, in your spirit, in your emotion. When you think about the lessons you've learned so far as it relates to loss, what's the number one thing that resonates with you?
Oh, that's a big question. First of all, thank you for having me. I think this is such an important conversation. I would say that the thing that stands out for me, and this is my answer today, last month or a year ago, maybe it would have been different. The biggest lesson is that God has to be the anchor, no matter what. We're going to experience loss and transition, but you have to be anchored, because if you're not, you will be blown away. And for some people, maybe that sounds cliche-ish. That's the Christian thing to do, the Christianese. But I found that to be true. Because, as you said, we've experienced a lot of loss, and it's been, close people, close relatives. So mother-in-law the next year, my brother-in-law. I could go down the list. My mom, both my brothers, a year, within each other, and then Lawrence just a few months later. But that foundation of just being able to go back to God. I had him before I met Lawrence. Thankfully, that was a foundation that I was building before we even married. But we were married for 25 years. And so when he passed away, although it was a huge blow, I'm still in disbelief a lot of times. I'm able to go back to the source, right? And that source is God. I wouldn't be able to get up out of bed some days I don't, right? And that's okay. But I have a hopefulness that I know is because of God's future that he's put in me. I was blessed to live 25 years with my husband. I was blessed to live 41 years with my mom. And what I've learned from them, it's priceless. But God has still said there's more life to live. And if I didn't have him, I wouldn't think that. I might be in a deep, dark depression. Yeah.
It's interesting that you kind of talk about the 25 years and the 41 years, because in his fatherhood space, I always talk about how I have a, disdain reaction to the word fatherless.
Yes.
Because in my mind, there is, not in my mind, but in reality, there is no such thing as a fatherless child. Right. And so, but what I say on top of that is that the lessness is not the issue. It is the absence that is the issue, right? The absence is what has to be responded to. And so when you talk about the 25 years and the 41 years, the grief is in the middle or sunk deep in the absence of those people in your life.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not that you never had a husband.
Right.
You're not husbandless.
Correct.
You're without the presence of a husband. You're not motherless. You're without the presence of a mother. Yep. So when you think about that, the presence piece of that, do you think people walk into that articulating that, or do they just kind of think about the loss, but don't think about the loss hurt so much because of the quality of the presence?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think it's the latter. Exactly. That's the way that I think about it. And I think that's why I'm able to move forward. What I've chosen, and because I think healing is a choice, I think joy is a choice. It doesn't mean that I don't experience pain, but it means that I'm not only going to experience pain. My choice is joy, right? Choice is to move forward. And so, I had 25 beautiful years with Lawrence as an example. I am not going to allow the day of his loss or even 11 months of him not being here to negate the amazing years that it far outweighs, right? Him not being here. Do I feel his absence? 100%. But my perspective is, how do I live life in the fullness of his presence? Even though he's not physically here, I am who I am because I spent 25 years as Mrs. Lawrence Wilburn. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
I spent 41 years as my mother's daughter. I'm making the choice not to live a life that is led by their absence, but it really absorbs their presence. I experience their absence. I acknowledge it, I should say. I mourn it, right? But the weight and the majority of how I choose to live is in the life of their memories and what we, experience together. So I would just say to those who are listening, who are in that period where they have experienced loss, that paradigm shift can mean everything.
Right.
And I think about that. How can I honor him? How can I live a life that serves his memory or my mom's memory? That brings me joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can loss prepare you for loss?
It can. I think it can. Every loss is unique. Every loss is different, right? So again, not to recount, but I lost my mom. I lost my grandmother, who I was very close to. This is all in the succession of about 3 years. 2 brothers, husband. I lost 3 cousins in one day from drug overdose. I think because my mom passed away in 2017, because I developed strategies and tools for when she passed, some things I didn't do well because I kept I acted like she hadn't passed.
Okay.
Because that's the other thing too. You can't go on with life without it, and not acknowledge the loss because it was major. But I developed tools and strategies for dealing with it, right? So when these other losses happened, I had something in my toolbox. Of course, I had God, but I had some of these other things that I could go to. Therapy for me is big. I have therapy and Jesus, right? Jesus is my source, but therapy helps me with some of those strategies. And so I think the preparation is just the idea that I know it can happen, right? And that there are things that I can do so that I'm not in the despair of it. That's the preparation. Are they all the same experiences? No. And I think if you think that, you're going to be messed up. But if you realize, no, I'm going to get over this. It may take me longer.
Right.
I may add some things. I may take away some things, but I can get through it.
Yeah. For me, it was really trying to figure out, because I have not had that kind of loss in my life. I've always kind of felt like I'm not the best person to be around when someone loses something, because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to show up. I don't know if I'm going to say something that makes no sense. I think the phrase that folks always say, and I know some people don't mind it. Some people absolutely hate it. It's like, I don't know what it means to be you. Yeah, no, you don't. So why say it?
I'm not even saying it. Yeah.
And so in my mind, processing him for me was really looking directly at the absence for me. Like, what am I now without?
Yeah.
As a result of him not being here.
Yeah.
And then how much of that is really there? I just don't see it because I'm thinking about his physical presence. Case in point, voice, right? I don't get to walk up to him and hear him say what Lawrence says to me. I don't get to hear verbally, bruh.
Yeah.
But I do hear it. There's some places that I'm in, like, as loud and as clear as day, I can hear him saying something. When you think about those really intimate things that come up on you at very intimate moments, like, what's the one that still kind of brings a level of joy to you?
Things that he did?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think the first thing is kissing me on the forehead. Just an endearing little, because he was so much taller than me.
Right.
He's taller than most people. And so that was big for me. Just, those physical, hugs and those kinds of things. It's funny because we were in a meeting. I was in a meeting with you and the team, and I'm so used to being in a meeting where he would be there.
Right.
And I could hear, like you were just saying, I could hear a comment that he would make, and I almost imagined him saying it. Those are the things that are both endearing, but they are the things where I'm like, wow, I'm not going to hear that in real time. We've got video and all of that, but and I think I think the other thing is with my kids, things that he would do. I've been talking, especially to my daughter. She'll be 16 soon, and she's missing him real bad. So in most of our conversations, she brings up things he would do or say, and I like that because it makes her smile. So little silly things, music he would play, or so we've been doing that a lot lately, and that's actually brought a lot of joy to both of us.
Yeah. I'm glad I take a lot of pictures, period.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I go back through my archives looking for something, just the other day, a picture popped up that I'd forgotten all about with him. And I looked at it and I just started laughing.
Yeah.
Because I remember what we were doing at that moment that I took that picture. And it's like, that's how people show up. But I think for me, also the responsibility, and I'm going to speak personally for me, which is how do I continue to show up for him in a way that I believe I'm responsible for, right? And so people don't know how to show up, right? And so in my mind's eye, like where I want to call you every day, how you doing, sis? How you doing, sis? It's like every time you do that, you're bringing up for her.
Yeah.
So you got to give her some space.
Yeah.
But then you find yourself in a place where it's like, am I giving too much space? Like, what's the adequate amount of space? I don't know how to do this dance.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want her to think that, oh, he's gone now, they've forgotten about it. No, that's not the case. We're trying to figure out what's our new dance.
Yeah.
Right? How do I stay connected? How do I stay doing what I believe he would have expected me to do if he wasn't here? And vice versa, what I would have expected him to do if I wasn't here for my family, and then trying to determine what that is and live up to that. And so really trying to figure out, not so much because I think people are always trying to, how do I keep his memory alive?
Yeah.
For me, it's different. It's how do I keep his work alive?
That's good.
I want you to just remember him.
Yeah.
I need you to feel him. I need you to feel what he was about and what he tried to do. I don't need you to just have a memory, because memories are fleeting for a lot of people. And what does that look like for your children, which is a whole different story, because our children grieve very differently than their parents grieve. That has also been a transition for you. That is a whole nother element, right? It's like, I got to grieve over here, but now I got to grieve over here in a very different way.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that transition. How do you move from having to take care of your own grief for loss and manage the grief of your children?
I could take all day. I'm really glad to that you're asking about this. It's challenging, right? It's tricky. Because I remember because I do believe in therapy, immediately I got us all in therapy, all 3 different therapists. And I remember my sessions were initially all about them. God, I got to do this. I have to do that. I have to make sure they're grieving well. And my therapist was like, kids are unique, generally speaking.
Right.
And she was like, they're going to find their way, right? Give them the tools, give them opportunities to talk, and they're going to bounce back. They're going to be with their friends. They're going to, and I do find that to be true. But I have been intentional about creating space, not pushing. And each of them are different, right? So Taya, who's our daughter, she's 15, almost 16. Next week, she'll be 16. She wanted everything to stay the same. She wanted to see everything. Like, she wanted his memory to be up in her face. Deshaun, who is our son, who is 17, did not put everything up. I don't want to be reminded, right, of my dad's passing. So I had to maneuver not just my grief, but those different ways and it was hard sometimes. Sometimes that was me taking him away, taking him fishing.
Because that was up against what you needed too.
Because that was up against what I needed. And to be honest, I don't even know what I need, because my mind is cloudy. I'm trying to figure out, my husband paid the bills for 25 years. I'm trying to figure out, not that I didn't have the money, but like physically, like where do I get this number? For who am I paying? So, and the business of grief is a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
So you're managing the business of grief. You're managing taking care of the day-to-day. You're managing your grief. You're managing your children's grief. And then I have ministry and the other things that I do. But to answer your question, I think it's sometimes to slow down, to be intentional, to do what you know to do. Because sometimes, to your point, people don't know how to help you grieve. Sometimes you don't know because there's no blueprint. So for me, sometimes it was just, hey, we're just going to go to lunch today. Sometimes it was, okay, I'm going to take Taya away and do something with her. I'm going to take Deshaun away and do something with him. Sometimes it was identifying people, and I did that immediately for both my kids. Who are people that they connect with, that can hang out with them sometimes or whatever, because I can't do it all.
Right.
That's been helpful. So some of it is just figuring it out as you go. And the thing that I will lastly say is my attempt was to find a new rhythm. And that's the thing that has helped us. I would say I just got to find a new rhythm.
Right.
And that means, because now I'm a single mom, that's a whole bunch of elements in there. But 11 months later, God gave us a new rhythm. And must have been doing something the Holy Spirit led, because we're all in one piece. My outfit matches, Sometimes
I ain't walking out of the house with 2 different shoes on.
Hair's not all over my head. My kids go to school, we're making it. So sometimes you just have to figure it out. But I'll again go back to the source, because I've done a lot of praying, a lot of crying, a lot of praying. How do I do this? And I just follow those steps.
Yeah. Support circles are so important too. Now, both of you were in a phenomenal church with a phenomenal pastor, with phenomenal people who supported you when you were together, and still, at least from my eyes view, have not let go.
100%.
Right? How important is it to have a support circle?
You have to. Please, anybody who is dealing with loss, transition, find a support circle. They can be a small group. It can be a large group. And you have to identify the roles those individuals might play, right? So I've got really close friends who actually came and stayed with me after Lawrence passed away. And, they were the ones helping me with business and, doing the things that I just couldn't think clearly to do. There were other people, and certainly Fathers Incorporated is included in that. Like, this is my large group. Thankfully, God blessed Lawrence and I to have the same group of friends. That doesn't always happen.
Right.
But both in church and business, people who loved us both. And so it could be easy to isolate yourself and not let people in. I think sometimes that's what happens. It's okay. I'm good. I wasn't that person. Even though that's my personality type.
Okay.
I knew it was too big for me. So when people would reach out and say, hey, can I do something? I would literally think, okay, what could they do? Right? And that's why I'm saying, think about what could they add value to in your life? So maybe my church friends weren't the ones helping me in business, but they were bringing food, or they're the ones calling, or, they're the ones picking up the kids. Don't isolate yourself and think you can do it all.
So you never had a no. You never had a, nah, I don't need that. I'm good.
I probably have some, but for the big things, mostly it was a yes.
Okay.
I would have to figure out what my comfort level was with that ask, but I would try to think about, and people would encourage me to do that. Now, again, my first response is I'll take care of it, because that's my personality type. But I'll tell you this, Kenny. God, even though I didn't know my husband was going to pass away, nobody could have ever told me that in a million years. In hindsight, God has given me prophetic words along the way.
I was going to ask you, that's going to be my next question.
Do you want me to go there or wait?
Let me frame it for you.
Please.
Because I was going to move from your support circle to your faith, because your faith is different from your support circle.
That's right.
Because your faith is contingent on your belief that God is doing what is best for you.
That's right.
And I wondered, at any point in this space, did you become confused by, like, God, what are you doing? Like, I didn't see this coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going on here?
100%. Yeah. I will tell you, and again, this is not everybody's approach. I believe it's okay to ask God why questions. I'm not that person that's like, how dare you? I'm like, listen, God knows all the answers. Right. We don't. Right. We got to be able to ask him something. But I don't dwell on that because if I know why, he's still not coming back. Right? So for me, the question isn't why, it is what now? How? Right? Did I struggle with his passing? 1,000%. Right? I'm here by myself, feeling like I'm by myself. Got my kids I'm raising. Like my life changed literally in an instant. And, without going into all the details, I didn't have a month, 2 weeks where we get some diagnosis and then all of a sudden he's gone. We are living life as normal the day after Christmas. And the Lord decides to take him home in a second. I can't even, the trauma and the PTSD from that is a whole other conversation. So when I say that I'm clothed and in my right mind and I know it's God, I know that it is the Lord, my Savior.
Right.
But I will say that in hindsight, because faith is big for me, there was some preparation. So a few months before Lawrence passed away, there was an elder who he grabbed my hand. I didn't know he was praying, but he stopped me. He said, God told me to tell you that you are one of a kind. He said something like, you're one of one, but you're not by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, it was, you're strong, you're all of these things, but it was like foreshadowing, like you're going to need your community. That was what the conversation was. I didn't know what that meant. In my mind, you're thinking, what does that mean? Maybe 2 months later, Lawrence passed away. So the reason I said yes so readily is because I remembered those words. Have I struggled with, how could this happen? A little bit. But I know myself, if I don't operate in faith, I can go down a real deep, dark circle real quick. So I've had to lean on God. And my prayer constantly is, I want to be better, not bitter. I would love to bring my husband back. I would love to, but in lieu of that, I refuse to live a life that is dark and bitter, and because I've seen people do it, hold on to grief like it's almost like it's a badge of honor. The chip that it's the lens that they see the whole world. God is so much bigger than that.
Yeah. The scripture says all things.
That's right.
Right. And I think that when people hear that scripture, they probably subconsciously remove the word all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or either they add good things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, all things.
Or they don't want it to be as bad as that. They want it to be a little bad. Not that bad.
All things have a purpose.
That's right.
I'm a why guy. I am. I don't let God off the hook with respect to me. But here's what I do understand about our relationship is that he may not. I believe God gives you 3 answers when you ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not now, and I have something else for you. There's never a no. It's either a yes, but not now, or I have something else for you. I am always locked in on a third one. I'm always locked in. Got something else for you.
That's good.
And what that allows me to do and what it really says to me is I'm going to give you your why, but I'm not going to give it to you right now. I'm going to give it to you in a blessing.
That's good.
And when you get this blessing, you're going to be like,
makes sense now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't it was bad, but okay. Now, I personally wish you didn't have to do that to get me here.
Right.
But now that I'm here,
right.
I'm grateful and I'm thankful. And moving forward, I can always rest assured that if something bad happens in my life, that you're going to honor your word by blessing me with a yes.
That's
Not
good.
telling me yes,
Yeah.
blessing me
Bless.
with a yes. So I can look back and say, okay, I get it. But when you think about that thought process, because I'm sure there are scriptures and words in the Bible that you really had to sink yourself into to like get your hands around and be like, God, your word says.
Yeah.
What is one of those?
Oh my gosh. Let not your heart be troubled. Be strong and courageous. I'm with you always, even into the end of the world. One of the ones that I just repeated over and over was, I'm a very present help in the time of trouble. And I would say it out loud. God, you said, and I don't want people to think like this has been hard. Sometimes have been hellish, and that's the word that I use. Sometimes people will see me on Facebook, which is my public persona. That's that's the curated version of me. I'm not going to be on Facebook crying. And I'm not crying all the time. But people look at that and like, oh, I know you're all right. No, don't say that, because you don't know. You don't know that I cried last night, or you don't know that both my kids are in the bed with me every night because they're having bad dreams. You don't know. And I'm not trying to be fake, because this is real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an either or. It's a both and, right? But it's those scriptures that would really take me through and help me. And this is one thing that I was going to say. I think when it comes to understanding, because you can't understand people's grief necessarily. You got to go through it on your own. You just have to kind of be there, right? How do you show up for somebody? You have that ministry of presence, right? And so when I think about the hellish times that I've gone through, during these 11 months, I haven't always picked up the phone and said, "Hey, I've talked to God. I've had the scriptures," but God would put somebody to the earlier point you made. Somebody would call, or just text,
right.
Not even a call. Don't know exactly what you need. I just want you to know that I'm praying for you. I got more of those than anything. And I can't tell you, you've done it plenty of times, or you'll say, it's time for breakfast. When we're going to go. Mm-hmm. Those moments are so precious, because it takes me out of spending the time of all the business at hand. That's just a normal,
right.
It's just a normal conversation with a friend, or it's just breakfast, or it's just God's put me on the mind of somebody. Those things are monumental.
It's a new rhythm.
It's a new rhythm.
It's a new rhythm.
Yeah.
You've changed, right? People don't think that change is good. Mm-hmm. I think that you've transformed.
Yeah.
Change is different. Change means you can go back to what you were. You can't go back to what you were.
That's good.
You've been transformed. What do you think your biggest change has been? Not the mechanics, not the running back and forth trying to drop two kids off at school in two different directions, not the mechanics.
Right.
What has changed about you?
You know what? That's a great question. And it kind of ties into something else I wanted to say about the last thing we talked about. I think it's rediscovery of self.
Okay.
Now, I will say that, to your point with the transformation, because I've lost weight, I've lost almost 40 pounds.
Somebody else got our pounds, because I lost 25, so somebody got 65.
And I'm glad it's
God bless you. Handle that 65.
Handle that 65. I ain't mad that it's gone. There's a different kind of joy that radiates, I think, from the inside, and I think that's because I'm really sitting with God. That's how I think sometimes all things work together, because I'm not doing this by myself. I'm sitting with Him. I'm talking to Him. I'm like, help me, Lord. But to be honest, for some people that's a little weird. Mm-hmm. Like, I would get asked questions like, almost like, what's going on with you? Your husband just passed away. Why are you doing this or that? And what I tell people when we're talking about season conversations and moving to next seasons and all of that, when my husband passed away, the thing that really stood out for me was the importance of life. And I made a conscious choice. Number one, I want to be here for my children. Right? They've already lost their father. I want to be here for them. But also, Kenny, I went from an undergrad dorm to my husband's house, right? Well, he moved into my apartment, but he would laugh about that if he was here. He moved into my apartment. But I'd lived in a graduate school dorm. And when it was,
used to say all the time, she said, I knew it. I knew. She got a doctor now, but I always knew her when she was Tisa.
that was his line. That's right. He's exactly right. So before I was all that and I was just Tisa, I was in an undergrad dorm, a graduate dorm, and then we were getting married. So I got my own apartment and he moved in, once we got married. I've never lived on my own. I've hardly ever been single because I was married at 22. Right. So part of what has happened, the change, the transformation has been at this season in my life, rediscovering who I am as Matisa. That's what I'm in search of now, right? I've lived beautifully as Mrs. Wilburn. That is part of who I am today. But my question to myself became, who are you? Who do you want to be? Because I've never thought about that apart from this couple, And I've been in ministry a long time. I've been doctor for a long time. I'm like stripping that down for myself. Like, who is Matisa? Like, I'm trying new things. I'm doing new things, and I love it. It's helping me live. Yeah.
I think that in the season space, because I didn't even ask you how seasoned are you. We won't go there, but she is seasoned, right? Because nobody sits in these chairs that don't have some seasoning. And sometimes life can give you seasoning even when age doesn't.
For sure.
Right? And we have to recognize that kind of seasoning in people.
That's right.
But for me, watching you, I'll throw a word out there and it won't sound like the right word, but it is how I am articulating it. And it is freedom. It's not that you're free from him, but you have a space that you're functioning in that doesn't have the same boundaries anymore. So I see a different fluidity with you, right? Because I can move and I now have the spirit that I can just put out there. What I know pre-Lawrence leaving is that you had it, but it was confined.
For sure.
It was functioning within the confines of the rules and an engagement that it was about my husband, about my kids,
absolutely,
about this, about that.
Yep.
And now it's a bigger space and it's not absent of him. It is just a boundary that has moved that gives me the ability to function a little freer with my spirit. And not have to be so confined to the day-to-day responsibilities.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Because your kid's not 8 and 9 anymore.
That's correct.
They're now self-sustaining. Right.
Yep.
And so you can function in a way, even in I watch almost everything you do or say. And so I'm paying attention to because I'm locked in. Because I'm listening between the lines. I'm that dude. I'm like, all right, I'm heard something here, then clock up, check in on this. But just watching like your ministry, your prayer is deeper. Your word is more extended.
Yeah.
Like your positioning in your church has shifted. Like I used to always say, how come they don't have Matisa up there doing? I was always like, how come every time I see this church, where's she at? And now I'm seeing you. Like I always saw y'all before in the shadows.
Yeah.
Like Lawrence would send me something and say, oh, I spoke last night or like, okay, like how come I'm not seeing this? That has changed a little bit. When you think about that space, are you becoming comfortable in it or is that space still too small? Like what is it that you're still trying to get at?
Oh, that's a great question. Freedom that's a great word. I would agree with that.
I know some people hear that and like, she free from, no, that's not what we're saying.
Not at all.
Right.
But I do, I don't know how to articulate it better. I mean, the way you said it is perfect. It's definitely not freedom from him. And it's not about him, right? The freedom is about me.
Right.
That's what I feel. And I don't know. The why that I did ask Kenny is why at this point in my life, right? Because to your point, I am seasoned. I'm not young. I'm not old. I'm right there in the middle. I'm right there in the middle. So my question was like, God, why now? What does that mean for me now? It felt ambiguous for a while. Like I'm in this in-between space for a little while. But then to your point, I started looking at it like, and feeling that freedom. Like, oh, wait a minute. It feels good. It really feels good to be in that space, to explore, to try. I feel like God has an assignment for me that is bigger. And I feel like I can put a lot more focus into that than perhaps I did before. And I don't even know how to explain it. And to be honest, I was going to say this before, but I think this is a good place to put it. There was a point where I was feeling almost a little guilty. I was feeling a little guilty because I was like, God, what is this? Like, why am I not? I told my grief coach this. I was like, I think I'm supposed to be sad.
Right.
I'm supposed to be walking around crying. Like, I'm not feeling like that. I thought something was wrong. And she said, Matisa, what I hear is the seeds that you and your husband planted are now coming to harvest.
Right.
You know? And when she said that, I was like, that is so good. That freed me even more because I didn't have to think, am I dishonoring him by not walking around crying? But no, that freedom is what I feel. I think it extends into ministry. I think it extends into motherhood. I'm freer with my kids in terms of the way I mother them. Before, I was really, like fist and control in there. But now because they're a little bit older and I'm trying to release a little bit and help them form their own independence. So those are all things work together for the good to me. And I think as far as church and all of those things are concerned, it's just like the right timing.
Right.
It's God's timing that I wouldn't be able to, I couldn't conjure it up or put it together if I wanted to. It's just the way things worked out.
The other space that I think you're a little freer in is when I first met you all, like your profession was also a little confined.
It was confined.
It was definitely confined. You were at, what's that school?
Oglethorpe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Remember that when I came in there and spoke to your class about whatever I spoke to them about?
I forgot about that.
And then I was like, then I saw your skill set. And I was like, I asked Lawrence, I was like, what she do? Like, that's what what is she trying to do? And he was like, I was like, I need to pull her in some things that we're doing over here at Fathers Incorporated. And the work that we've done together, whether it is the Moynihan Institute, writing for Gentle Words Academy, all of that stuff, the legitimation, speaking, you are still the only guest I've ever had on I Am Dad podcast twice.
Really?
Yeah. And that was in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? But one of the things that, so the element in your profession that I think is broadening, and then you always, this other stuff that I want to do, I want to do stuff, I want to DI, I want to do the other thing. In my mind, it's like, that's confining. That's you're so much more than just that singular subject matter.
Yeah.
And so now I'm seeing you go out and you're speaking, and your speaking base is broader in terms of what you're talking about. But where I'm trying to land this plane is DisruptHer. Because I think I've been dragging her to be an advocate for fathers and men, and she's been struggling trying to get to the woman's side, y'all. I'm trying to keep her from y'all. I got enough on y'all side. I need some soldiers on my side. But I can't harness this. I can't harness this horse. She's a wild horse. So, but now I'm watching her in this space with DisruptHer. And now when we talk about this freedom piece, I'm seeing that unleashed.
Wow.
Talk to me about DisruptHer.
Oh my goodness. DisruptHer is my baby. I was actually getting some ideas in a recent meeting we had. I was like, because I want a university that's DisruptHer University. You know what? DisruptHer really formed out of my own experience, because I have been in so many spaces across my life where I've been the only one, the youngest, the only person of color, the only woman, the only. And being that person that's always asking the question, right? Well, what about this? Or have we thought about this? And I remember asking God one time, I was like, why do I always have to be the dissenting voice, the disrupting voice, right? Why can't I just sit back like everybody else? And he was like, because you're a disruptor. It's not because you're also a peacemaker. So you're not a divider.
Right.
Disruption is not dividing. Yeah. It is helping people see things from a different perspective so that all can benefit. Right. That's the way I think about it. And so that has been my life. And the things that I've learned over time have given me success. It's allowed me to be in spaces and rooms and cities and countries that I never would have imagined. And God said, you're going to be the first in a lot of these spaces, but you won't be the only one because your assignment is to bring people with you. And I've seen myself doing the opening the door. And so, long story short, DisruptHer is the concept that God gave me. It's an executive coaching program for women. And I found that women who are amazing, high achieving in a lot of ways, women of faith, many of them, there's just something more that unleash. I like that word. Yeah. They're not free to be all of who they are. And so it's an executive coaching program where I take women literally through a disruption journey where they're disrupting themselves and they're thinking about how their God-given assignment can help disrupt in the earth again so that everybody is better. It has been this is my second year. It's been one of the greatest privileges for me to be able to do that.
What are you learning from them about yourself?
That there's always work to do, right? That it's not, that disruption is a journey. It's not a destination. I'm always learning from them. And in fact, what I tell them when we come together, because it's a group model, I always say, hey, this is a think tank. This is a brain trust. So when you come in this space, I'm the lead disruptor, but you all are already disruptors. You're not here because I'm just going to give you everything. We're here to learn from each other. And so I reflect in them. They mirror a lot of things. I'm looking at them thinking, oh, I used to think that way, or this is where I could tighten up in this area. So it's always a beautiful thing because it's ministry upon ministry and it's reciprocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things I've learned from you is, like, typically when you hear this phrase, iron sharpens iron, it is always interpreted as men sharpen men. I've always thought, no, that is to assume that all iron is just men. An iron can also be a woman. And as long as we're both irons, we can sharpen each other.
Absolutely.
And there are elements of our conversations in the past, even today, where I'm listening, where you are sharpening my skills and my instincts about the vocation that I'm in around fathers. It's like, because I know the articulation of how you translate women and mothers can be juxtaposed against it, and I can make sense out of it. So when I stand in front of a room full of women, I am comfortable.
Good. Yes. Yes.
Because my iron has already been sharpened by women.
So good.
Who help me articulate and understand and put into context what I'm talking about. This ain't a me against you. This ain't a us against them.
That's right.
This is a us, period. And that is how the conversation. So whatever those pains are that you bring to the space as a result of what someone else has given you that you haven't rectified, resolved yet, is something different from the conversation we're having. And until we start having more joint conversations, we are always going to be stuck in our silos. Now, that doesn't mean that there should not be rooms where women are talking to women and men are talking to men. But as long as men and women aren't in the same room talking, we're never going to get to what we ultimately want and need, right? And so when you are working with the women in DisruptHer, are there nuances that you feel like sometimes you have to break for them in order to move forward? Because people can get stuck in their thought process, right? Give you an example. And so if you're watching the tea leaves, right, and you're watching what's going on in society today, there is a strong emphasis on the empowerment of women, particularly Black women. And from my bird's eye view, there is not the same sentiment for Black men and boys.
Yep.
That our sentiment only rises when a Black man or boy is killed. We don't rise for no other reason when it comes to men and boys. My spirit is always, how come when something happens, it always has to be a Black man or a Black woman? How come it can't just be a Black person? Because as long as we keep defining, you said earlier that this is not divisive, It is supposed, so disruption doesn't have to be divisive.
That's right.
But when disruption is divisive, it's not a good thing.
That's
like,
right.
how do we disrupt and still keep the family unit together? So from that vantage point, there are folks who can get out there and be gun-ho and I'm disrupting, I'm killing everything in my path.
Yes.
But you're killing us too.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not thinking that because you're so focused on disrupting what is going to be beneficial for you in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
And so my thought was, when folks come, particularly women, come into your space, do you see where there is some of, I got to get mine, and I ain't really worried about anybody else right now? And then is that something that can be negotiated or talked about or harnessed or guided in a way that becomes more positive than it becomes more negative for anyone?
I love this question, first of all, because you were making me think about, this is my 7th cohort, and I can honestly say that those are never the conversations that come up.
Wow.
And I think the reason is twofold. Number one, my husband's and my relationship was very public. Publicly honored him. He publicly honored me. Because I'm a woman of faith, I do believe in kingdom order, right? I do believe that, and Lawrence was the head of our household. No matter what I did or how strong I am, he was the head. Now he respected and honored me in my place, and I respected it. And I think because of that example, the people who are attracted to my program are attracted to what I represent. That's the first thing.
Okay.
So I can't think of one case where a woman has come into that space with the kind of sentiment of, I'm trying to get ahead of anybody else, or I have to disrupt it in that way. I don't remember not one conversation that way. I will say too, based on what I know God, because one of my favorite scriptures is, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." And if I look throughout the history of my life, I've always been in places where I'm a disruptor, but I'm also a bridge. Those two things for me go hand in hand.
Okay.
So for my particular program, it is not women's empowerment in the sense that I have to gain power over someone else. It's more about internal transformation to unleash, to go back to the words we've used, unleash their freedom so they can be the best of who they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
For those women who are married, and there have been a number of them, never have been a conversation, between them and their spouse. But we have talked about in times past, how do you become empowered so you can be your best self in partnership?
Gotcha.
That's the way I think about it.
Yeah.
One thing that I've said about Lawrence, and he would repeat this, Lawrence he loved me into submission. When I think about husbands, they are Ephesians 5.
I love that. Love me into submission.
He loved me into submission.
And that could go both ways.
Both ways. Oh, for sure. We were partners.
Right.
But he was Ephesians 5. He was first partaker. He was the responsible. He was the head. I tell people, and you've heard me say this, I didn't pay a bill in 25 years. Now, I gave money towards it. But all of those mechanics, he did it. I didn't even know how to get my tags. There were so many things I didn't know. I'm laughing at myself, as empowered as I am. I didn't know how to get my tags together on my car. The police pulled me over. Funny story. It was me and Deshaun. Deshaun was petrified. His hands on the dashboard, shaking. I was like, son, it's okay. Relax. It's okay. The officer was like, ma'am, I think this was like in March or something. And my tags were supposed to be renewed in November.
I'm just visualizing that. That's cracking me up. Go ahead.
He's, knuckles white, literally white. We had just come from fishing of all places. It was his birthday.
Okay.
So the officer was like, ma'am, you were supposed to have your tags renewed. My husband just died. I didn't know. And I am not to play the crying woman card,
Right.
but I was overwhelmed that day. It was. He was like, okay, I'll give you a warning. But I said all of that to say, as empowered as I am, we really worked together. And so that's the approach that I take in this program. And I'll be honest, working with Fathers Incorporated was, I think, the very first time that I'd worked with fathers and men because I've typically only worked with women. That perspective opened such a huge, it opened me wide open, because what I learned is that our needs are universal.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
They're unique in perspective, they're unique in experience, but they're universal in the simplicity of them. That was big for me. So that it's never me against them. It's always an us.
Right.
Yeah.
On that note, goodness, you and I could just go on and on. I am in my mind just harnessing this conversation so it don't go into other spaces, which means you got to come back.
Okay. All right.
And we got to have more conversations. And you've actually opened me up to a very different track of conversations that I want to have. Not only you and I, but you and Tracy and you and others in this space, because this is just a seasoned conversation space. Sometimes you may see me, sometimes you might not see me. I just want you to get the conversation. But, this whole notion of, transition, regardless of what your life circumstance is a season issue. Like we transition in a lot of our world today is in a serious transition space, and people are struggling mightily right now, what to do with their lives now. And so we started out this conversation with respect to loss, about losing people, but people lose their homes, they lose their car, they lose their jobs, they lose their livelihoods. Like transition after loss is a real thing. And it is even more serious when you are seasoned and you think that you've gotten to a particular position in life, and all of a sudden something is gone that you don't have anymore, and it turns your life into complete freaking chaos.
Absolutely.
Right. And then how do you do it? So I really want to come back and have some conversations about walking people through, how do you keep your spirit up? How do you remain encouraged? I want to have some conversations about, how do you stay grounded in your faith?
Yeah.
How do you not let your faith go? There's this training that I want to do that really specifically talks about Peter on the boat. Tracy and I was having this conversation about why do folks who are up against the wall and go to church leave? Typically it's the last resort. That's why you go.
Right.
But you definitely don't go and then leave. It means something is happening, something that they're looking for is not there. And my conversation with her was, there's this issue of faith that we don't talk about, which is that is a thing that allows you to continue to move through the storm.
Through it. That's right.
It wasn't that it was Jesus. It was the minute that he lost faith in the outcome, he began to sink.
That's right.
And it wasn't until he, wait, I'm focused on the wrong thing. I got to get back focused on my faith. It's what keeps me back above water. And I think that in people's lives, what happens is they lose that goal of faith, that whatever happens is going to be for my good, right? But I got to stay focused on it, because if I take my focus off of it, it ain't going to be good, right? And that's a lockdown conversation that I think we need to have with more and more people, as I'm watching people experience what they're going through right now. And they don't have answers for it. Everybody ain't churched, right? Everybody's not going to show up in the church looking for help. Some people are going to show up on this podcast, right? And so to the extent that we can have conversations about what this season part of our lives look like from all perspectives, that is what I want to do with this podcast. That's why it's a departure from everything that I've done, where I'm now looking at my own life, and I'm like, for men in particular, because Lawrence and I had these conversations all the time about our health. Two of us were really locked in on each other's health, right? And our conversations were always, we got to take care of our health. We got to go take our prostate exam. We got to do doctor's appointments. We got to do all of those things. But the thing that we had locked in on is that to not do that is a selfish act.
Mm.
Because if you don't do that, you're thinking that it's about you.
Right.
And it ain't about you. It's about the people who love and support you. So to not take care of myself is a selfish act because I'm now dismissing the importance of me in the lives of people who love me.
Wow.
And if I care about that, I have to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had that so his passing was a lock-in for me when it happened. It was like, okay. And I had to have a conversation with my son, which was, listen, when you do make it into the league, and God has already told us that that's going to happen, so we're going to keep rocking with it.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're not going to do, right, is thank me while looking up in the air.
Wow.
Your thinking of me in that audience is going to be two eyes locking on each other. It ain't going to be what's on, my nah.
Yeah.
That's not even how God played it out in my head. I see the scene. I know the scene already, so I know how it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So we just have to keep functioning. But I also know at the same time that if I don't do what I need to do with respect to my health, that ain't going to happen. And it's not going to be his fault. It'll be my fault. And it'll be because of my own selfish nature of not taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. Tell you like Bishop Ferguson always tells me, I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you could do about it.
Well, I love you right back.
And we locked in. And so to all of my seasoned conversation listeners, thank you so much for joining us for another episode. We're going to be back. We're going to continue to bring these things forward. If you are, for women who are watching and you want to know more about DisruptHer, how do they find you?
Instagram, it's at Matisa Wilburn. And LinkedIn, it's at Matisa Wilburn, PhD.
Okay.
Yep. And one more thing, they can also go to my website, matisawilburn.com.
Okay. Make sure you do that because we locking this circle up. You don't even know what's coming out of the Braswell brain right now. Mm-hmm. We getting ready to do some things to help a lot of people. You know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you are kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself. Always shoot high for your goals because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And that's my good friend and mentor, Art Mitchell, always said to me, Kenny, it's nice to be important, but you know what? It's much more important to be nice. God bless. Have a great week. Peace out. Thank you for tuning in to Seasoned Conversations, where wisdom meets experience and every story reminds us that life gets better with time. If you've been inspired by our guests and conversations, don't stop here. Continue your journey by grabbing your copy of Too Seasoned to Care, now available on Amazon, iTunes, Audible, and our website at theseasoncollective.com. And while you're there, join the Seasoned Collective, a growing community of thinkers, dreamers, and doers who are embracing the power of being seasoned. And make sure you stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for new episodes, live events, and exclusive content that keeps you growing with grace, purpose, and wisdom. Because when experience speaks, the world listens. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you for joining me for today's seasoned conversation. Remember, every step we take shapes the legacy we leave. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else navigating their own seasoned journey. To learn more and to become part of our growing community, visit us at theseasoncollective.com. Until next time, stay seasoned, stay purposeful, and remember, it's never too late to care deeply, to live boldly, and to rewrite your story.